Prologue. When two Zeuses stand face to face. One is Zeus of Greek mythology, the supreme god whose thunder shaped the laws of heaven and earth, a ruler not chosen by fear, but acknowledged by fate itself. The other is Zeus from God, a fallen king, corrupted by paranoia, ruling Olympus through betrayal, violence, and terror. They share the same name. They wield the same lightning, but they're not the same gods. In the world of myth, Zeus is not merely a warrior. He is order incarnate, the living boundary between chaos and civilization. His thunder does not strike in rage alone, it strikes in judgment. To defy him is not just to challenge a god, but to rebel against the structure of the cosmos itself. But in the world of God of War, Zeus is something else entirely. He is a ruler haunted by prophecy, a father who fears his son, a god who believes power can be preserved through cruelty. This Zeus does not uphold balance. He clings to control. And then there is Kratos, a being born of war, forged by loss, driven by fury. To the Zeus of the game, Kratos is a nightmare that must be erased. But to the Zeus of mythology, Kratos is something far more dangerous, a symptom of imbalance, a consequence of a god who has forgotten his true role. So what happens when Kratos, the god-slayer, steps beyond a world of fiction and faces Zeus as he was meant to be? Not a tyrant, but a force of cosmic authority? This is not a battle of strength. It is a confrontation of identity. Because in the end, the question is not who wields the lightning, but who truly deserves to be called Zeus. Part 1. Zeus of original mythology, the king of order and fate. To understand Zeus of Greek mythology, one must first abandon the modern obsession with raw power. Zeus was never meant to be judged solely by how hard his lightning strikes or how many enemies he could destroy. His true strength lay elsewhere, in authority that transcended violence, in a power that did not merely dominate, but defined reality itself. Zeus was not simply the strongest god. He was the god whose rule made the world coherent, the birth of a cosmic ruler. Zeus did not rise to power through chance. His ascent was shaped by prophecy, inevitability, and rebellion against an older, more brutal order. Before Zeus, the universe was ruled by the Titans, primordial beings of immense strength but limited vision. Kratos, king of the Titans, devoured his own children out of fear, believing that power could only be preserved by annihilating potential threats. This act alone defines the moral contrast at the heart of Greek mythology. Kratos ruled through prevention and terror. Zeus would rule through structure and law. When Zeus overthrew the Titans during the Titanomachy, the victory was not merely military. It was philosophical. Chaos gave way to hierarchy. Instinct gave way to reason. The cosmos transitioned from a world governed by brute survival to one governed by order, balance, and consequence. In mythic terms, Zeus did not just win a war. He redefined what rulership meant. Zeus and the architecture of the universe. After the fall of the Titans, Zeus did not claim absolute dominion over all realms. Instead, he divided existence among his brothers, Poseidon ruling the seas, Hades ruling the underworld, while Zeus himself presided over the sky. This division was not weakness. It was deliberate balance. Greek mythology consistently portrays Zeus as the arbiter, not the micromanager. He did not govern every detail of mortal life. Instead, he stood as the final authority, the last word when laws were broken, oaths shattered, or boundaries crossed. Lightning, his signature weapon, was never a random tool of destruction. In myth, lightning is judgment made visible. It strikes those who violate sacred laws, oath breakers, tyrants, hubristic kings who believe themselves equal to the gods. To be struck by Zeus was not merely to die. It was to be condemned by the universe itself. Zeus as the guardian of cosmic law. One of Zeus's most overlooked roles is his function as the protector of oaths and hospitality. As Zeus Horkios, he punished those who swore falsely. As Zeus Xenios, he safeguarded guests and strangers, ensuring that even kings were bound by sacred customs. This is crucial. Zeus was not a god who ruled by impulse. He ruled by principle. Mortals and gods alike lived under an invisible framework enforced by Zeus, a system where actions carried consequences beyond personal vendettas. In this sense, Zeus was less a character and more a cosmic institution. To challenge Zeus was not simply to challenge a king. It was to challenge the rules that allowed existence to function. The misunderstood nature of Zeus's morality. Modern audiences often judge Zeus harshly, particularly for his many affairs and morally ambiguous actions. But within the context of ancient Greek thought, Zeus was not meant to embody modern ethical perfection. He embodied stability. Greek myths were not moral instruction manuals. They were explanations of reality. Zeus's flaws reflected the ancient understanding that power is not purity, and that even order contains contradiction. Yet despite his imperfections, Zeus consistently acts as the final enforcer of justice. When gods overstep their bounds, Zeus intervenes. When mortals grow arrogant, Zeus humbles them. When balance is threatened, Zeus restores it, sometimes gently, sometimes catastrophically. This duality is intentional. Zeus is not good. Zeus is not evil. Zeus is necessary. Fate, free will, and Zeus's limits. Perhaps the most important distinction between Zeus of mythology and his fictional adaptations lies in his relationship with fate. Zeus is powerful, but he is not omnipotent. The moirai, the fates, exist beyond even his authority. Zeus can delay destiny, negotiate outcomes, and influence events, but he cannot erase fate entirely. This limitation is what elevates Zeus beyond a tyrant. A tyrant believes himself above all laws. Zeus acknowledges laws older than himself. In doing so, Zeus becomes not a dictator of reality, but its custodian. Why Kratos cannot replace this Zeus? Within this mythological framework, the idea of Kratos overthrowing Zeus becomes fundamentally flawed. Not because Kratos lacks strength, but because he lacks legitimacy. Kratos represents wrath, trauma, and personal vengeance. His power is fueled by emotion, not mandate. Zeus's authority, by contrast, is structural. It exists whether Zeus desires it or not. Even if Kratos were to strike Zeus down, the role Zeus fulfills would remain empty, and the cosmos would demand a replacement bound by the same rules. To kill Zeus is easy. To be Zeus is impossible. Zeus as an idea, not a man. Ultimately, Zeus of Greek mythology transcends character. He is an idea, the embodiment of order emerging from chaos, of law arising from violence, of balance forged through conflict. He is the thunder that reminds gods and mortals alike that existence has limits. This Zeus does not scream in rage. He does not fear rebellion. He does not chase control. He simply is. And that is why, when placed beside his darker fictional counterpart, the question is no longer who is stronger, but which Zeus truly belongs to myth and which belongs to tragedy. Part 2. Zeus in God of War. When a god becomes a tyrant. Power does not fall all at once. It decays. Zeus in God of War is not born a monster. He becomes one, slowly, tragically, and inevitably. His story is not the tale of a god who lost strength, but of a god who lost trust in the very order he once represented. This is the Zeus who wears the same crown, wields the same thunder, and speaks with the same authority, yet stands in absolute opposition to his mythological origin. If Zeus of mythology is order made flesh, then Zeus of God of War is what happens when order collapses under fear. The seed of paranoia, when prophecy replaces wisdom. At the heart of Zeus's fall lies a familiar poison, prophecy. Like Kronos before him, Zeus becomes obsessed with the idea that his reign will be overthrown by his own child. But unlike the Titans, Zeus already knows the cost of such fear. He knows what paranoia did to his father. He knows how the cycle begins. And yet, he repeats it. This is the first fracture in Zeus's identity. Instead of trusting balance, Zeus begins to trust prevention. Instead of guiding fate, he attempts to control it. The moment Zeus believes that survival requires betrayal, he ceases to be a guardian of order and becomes its executioner. In God of War, prophecy does not inspire reflection. It inspires terror. Zeus no longer asks, "What must I do to preserve balance?" He asks, "Who must I destroy to preserve my throne?" That single shift transforms a ruler into a tyrant. From king to jailer, Olympus under fear. Under Zeus's rule in God of War, Olympus no longer resembles a seat of cosmic harmony. It becomes a fortress of anxiety. Gods do not rule alongside Zeus. They serve beneath him. Dissent is not debated, it is punished. Authority is not earned, it is enforced. This Zeus does not divide power to maintain balance. He hoards it to maintain dominance. Even the other Olympians are reduced to shadows of their mythological selves, broken by ego, corruption, and dependence on Zeus's approval. Olympus rots from within, not because of Kratos, but because Zeus has poisoned the foundation. A god who once symbolized law now governs through fear. And fear, unlike law, cannot sustain a universe. Kratos, the consequence Zeus refuses to acknowledge. Zeus sees Kratos as an enemy. But Kratos is not the cause of Olympus's downfall. He is the symptom. Kratos is what happens when divine authority abandons justice. He is rage born from betrayal, violence forged by lies, a weapon shaped by gods who refused responsibility. Zeus creates Kratos long before he tries to kill him. By deceiving Kratos, manipulating him, and ultimately attempting to erase him, Zeus commits the ultimate sin of rulership. He denies accountability. He does not ask how Kratos was created. He only asks how Kratos can be destroyed. In myth, Zeus punishes those who violate cosmic order. In God of War, Zeus violates it himself, and the universe responds accordingly. The sin of the father, repeating Kronos. Perhaps the most tragic element of Zeus's portrayal is how perfectly he mirrors the very monster he once defeated. Kronos devoured his children out of fear. Zeus murders his son for the same reason. This is not coincidence. This is mythology's oldest warning made literal. When a ruler believes that power is more important than principle, history does not progress, it loops. Zeus in God of War does not break the cycle of tyranny. He completes it, and in doing so, he proves that strength alone does not make a god worthy of rule. Thunder without judgment. Lightning still answers Zeus's call, but it no longer carries meaning. In mythology, Zeus's thunderbolt is judgment, a visible verdict against those who violate sacred laws. In God of War, lightning becomes just another weapon, loud, destructive, and increasingly desperate. This Zeus does not strike to correct imbalance. He strikes to silence opposition. The symbolism is clear. When authority loses moral weight, power becomes hollow. Thunder without judgment is nothing more than noise, and noise cannot command respect. Fear as a governing principle. Every action Zeus takes in God of War is rooted in fear. Fear of prophecy, fear of rebellion, fear of irrelevance. Fear drives him to betray his allies. Fear drives him to sacrifice Olympus itself. Fear drives him to confront Kratos not as a ruler, but as a cornered animal. This is the defining difference between the two Zeuses. Mythological Zeus understands fear, but does not obey it. God of War Zeus worships fear as strategy. And fear, when elevated to law, destroys everything it touches. The collapse of divine legitimacy. When Zeus finally confronts Kratos, the battle is not between god and warrior. It is between legitimacy and defiance. Kratos does not need to prove he is right. Zeus no longer proves that he is. Every blow Kratos lands is not just physical damage. It is the collapse of Zeus's authority. Gods fall not when they are wounded, but when they are no longer believed in. By the time Zeus is defeated, Olympus has already died. A god who forgot his purpose. Zeus in God of War is tragic not because he is evil, but because he forgot why he ruled. He no longer serves balance. He no longer respects fate. He no longer understands restraint. In attempting to preserve his reign at all costs, Zeus destroys the very structure that made his reign possible. This is the ultimate irony of his downfall. He does not lose because Kratos is stronger. He loses because he is no longer Zeus. When a god becomes a villain. By the end of God of War 3, Zeus is not remembered as a guardian of order, but as the final obstacle to be erased. That alone is the greatest condemnation. A god who becomes indistinguishable from a villain has already fallen, long before the final blow is struck. Zeus is a warning, not a hero. The Zeus of God of War is not meant to be admired. He is meant to be understood. He represents the inevitable fate of power that refuses accountability, authority that abandons principle, and leadership driven by fear rather than purpose. He is not the god who lost to Kratos. He is the god who lost to himself. The tragic verdict. In the end, Zeus's fall is not a victory for Kratos alone. It is a verdict delivered by the universe itself. A ruler who governs through fear invites rebellion. A god who denies fate accelerates it. A king who forgets justice becomes expendable. And so Zeus falls, not as a god struck down by a warrior, but as a tyrant undone by his own paranoia. He held the lightning. He wore the crown, but he abandoned the meaning. And without meaning, even a god becomes mortal. Part 3. Kratos versus mythological Zeus. Who is truly Zeus? This is not a battle that can be measured by strength alone. No thunder shakes the sky at the beginning. No blood is clashed. No blood is spilled. Because if Kratos were ever to face Zeus of original mythology, the confrontation would not begin with violence. It would begin with definition. What does it mean to be Zeus? Is Zeus merely the strongest being in existence? Is he the one who holds lightning? Or is Zeus something far more dangerous, a role that must be fulfilled, regardless of who wears the crown? To answer this question, one must strip away spectacle and return to myth itself. Kratos, the god who is born from consequence. Kratos is not a natural god. He is a reaction. In every incarnation of his story, Kratos emerges not because the universe needs him, but because something has gone terribly wrong. He is forged in betrayal, sharpened by injustice, and driven by rage that has nowhere else to go. Kratos exists because divine authority failed. He is the answer to corruption, not the foundation of order. His power is immense, but it is reactive, not structural. Kratos does not stabilize worlds. He collapses them, so something new might emerge from the ruins. This distinction matters, because Zeus, in myth, is not born from anger. He is born from necessity. Zeus of myth, authority without emotion. Mythological Zeus does not rule because he wants to. He rules because someone must. In the ancient Greek worldview, the universe cannot exist without hierarchy. Chaos without limit becomes annihilation. Zeus stands at the boundary, not as a tyrant, but as a keystone holding reality together. He is not defined by victory in battle, but by continuity. Zeus endures. Empires fall. Heroes die. Gods fade into legend. But Zeus remains because the function he serves cannot disappear. This is why the comparison with Kratos becomes fundamentally unfair, not to Zeus, but to Kratos. Kratos can kill gods. Zeus outlives them. The false question of strength. Modern audiences often ask, could Kratos defeat mythological Zeus? But this question misunderstands the nature of myth. Zeus is not a boss fight. He is not a final enemy. He is the condition under which enemies exist. To defeat Zeus physically would be meaningless. Even if his body were destroyed, the role he fulfills would remain, and the cosmos would demand that role be filled again. Kratos could strike Zeus down, but what would happen next? Who enforces oaths? Who punishes hubris? Who maintains the invisible laws that separate gods from monsters and kings from tyrants? Kratos offers no answer. Kratos in the absence of legitimacy. Kratos rules nothing. This is not a criticism. It is his nature. Kratos does not govern realms, establish laws, or preserve balance. Wherever he goes, institutions collapse. Olympus falls. the Greek world withers. Even in later sagas, his presence brings upheaval rather than stability. Kratos is powerful because he is unbound. But Zeus is powerful because he is bound to purpose. Legitimacy is the silent force that separates a king from a conqueror. Zeus possesses it because his authority is woven into the fabric of the universe. Kratos does not seek legitimacy. He seeks release. And that is why he can never truly be Zeus. Violence versus judgment. Kratos embodies violence. This is not metaphorical. Violence is his language, his solution, his identity. Every problem Kratos faces is ultimately resolved through destruction. Zeus, by contrast, embodies judgment. Judgment is slower, colder, more terrifying. Violence ends a life. Judgment defines meaning. Zeus does not strike down every challenger. He allows mortals and gods alike to fail, to suffer consequences, to learn limits. His thunder is not rage, it is verdict. Kratos cannot deliver verdicts. He can only deliver endings. The illusion of rebellion. Kratos is often framed as a symbol of rebellion, the one who defies gods, fate, and destiny itself. But rebellion only has meaning within a system. Without Zeus's order, rebellion becomes noise. Ironically, Kratos' entire narrative depends on the existence of a Zeus-like authority to rebel against. Remove that authority, and Kratos becomes directionless, a force without context. Zeus defines the rules so that breaking them matters. Kratos breaks rules. Zeus creates the possibility of rules existing at all. Fate, the ultimate boundary. One of the most critical distinctions between Kratos and mythological Zeus lies in their relationship with fate. Kratos fights fate. Zeus negotiates with it. In Greek mythology, even Zeus is not above the moirai. But unlike Kratos, Zeus understands this limitation. He does not rage against destiny. He works within it, bends it, delays it, but never denies its existence. Kratos believes freedom comes from destroying fate. Zeus understands that freedom comes from accepting limits. This philosophical divide makes true comparison impossible. Kratos seeks to escape the system. Zeus is the steward of the system. Can Kratos replace Zeus? Let us imagine, for a moment, that Kratos defeats mythological Zeus. The throne is empty. The sky is silent. The thunder fades. What happens next? Does Kratos take Zeus's place? To rule, Kratos would need to abandon everything that defines him. He would need restraint instead of rage, judgment instead of vengeance, responsibility instead of escape. In becoming Zeus, Kratos would cease to be Kratos. And that is the final paradox. Kratos can only exist because Zeus exists. Zeus exists regardless of Kratos. Zeus as an archetype, not an individual. Zeus is not a character. He's an archetype. He represents authority that transcends personality, kingship without sentiment, justice without comfort, order without mercy. This is why Zeus survives reinterpretation after reinterpretation. Tyrants were his name. Heroes challenge his shadow, but the archetype remains intact. Kratos is a character, a powerful one, a tragic one, but still a singular story bound by emotion, trauma, and personal history. Archetypes endure. Characters burn brightly and then fade. The real answer to the question, so who is truly Zeus? Not the one who holds the lightning, not the one who wins the fight, not the one who kills the other. Zeus is the one whose absence would collapse the meaning of the world. Kratos can destroy gods, but he cannot replace meaning. The final verdict. Kratos may defeat a corrupt Zeus. He may shatter a fallen Olympus. He may silence thunder born of fear. But he cannot defeat Zeus as myth intended him to be. Because mythological Zeus is not a villain to overcome. He is the reason villains exist. He is the reason heroes rise. He is the boundary that gives conflict significance. Kratos in stories. Zeus makes stories possible. Epilogue, the crown that cannot be taken. If Kratos stood before the true Zeus, there would be no epic duel. There would be a moment of silence. And in that silence, Kratos would realize something far more unsettling than defeat. That the throne he seeks to destroy is not guarded by power, but by necessity. Zeus does not ask to be feared. He does not demand loyalty. He simply fulfills the role no one else can. And that is why, in the end, the answer is clear. Kratos is the god who breaks chains. Zeus is the god who decides why chains exist. Only one of them can be called Zeus. Conclusion. Who is Zeus truly? In the end, the answer is not found in victory or defeat. Kratos does not win because he is stronger than a god. Zeus does not fall because he is weaker. The true difference lies elsewhere, in purpose. Kratos is the embodiment of rebellion, a force born from betrayal and suffering. He exists to break chains, to shatter corrupted authority, to end cycles of cruelty. His strength is undeniable, but it is fueled by emotion, by loss, by rage that demands release. Zeus, as myth originally intended him to be, is something far more unsettling. He is not a hero. He is not a villain. He is necessity made divine. When Zeus in God of War abandons this role, he ceases to be Zeus long before Kratos strikes the final blow. And when Kratos destroys him, he is not overthrowing a god. He is erasing a mistake. Because Zeus was never meant to be feared as a tyrant, but respected as a boundary. In the end, the question is no longer who would win. The real question is, who deserves to rule the storm? The one who breaks the world, or the one who makes the world possible? Thunder tears across the sky of Olympus, and in its blinding light stands Zeus, ruler of the gods, master of lightning, an eternal symbol of divine justice. To mortals, he is remembered as the great hero who shattered the tyranny of the Titans and brought order to a broken cosmos. His name is spoken with awe, his image carved into stone, his victories sung in the voices of poets. But history, especially the kind written by the victorious, has a dangerous habit of hiding its darkest truths. What if Zeus was not only a liberator, but also a conqueror? Before Olympus rose, the universe was ruled by Cronus and the Titans, brutal, paranoid, and cruel. They devoured their own children, enslaved the forces of nature, and ruled through fear. When Zeus rebelled, it was seen as an act of cosmic salvation. The chains were broken. The Titans were defeated. A new age was born. Yet behind every revolution lies a question that no legend dares to ask. What was the real price of that victory? Zeus did not take power through negotiation or justice. He took it through war, thunder, and annihilation. The Titans were not judged. They were erased. Their voices were buried beneath Tartarus, and their story was silenced forever. And so, the only version of history that survived was Zeus's. As the skies cleared and Olympus shone in golden glory, no one dared to wonder whether the new king of the gods was truly different from the tyrant he overthrew, or merely a stronger version of the same darkness. Because when absolute power changes hands, the world may be saved, but the truth is often lost. Part 1. Zeus, the hero who overthrew the tyranny of the Titans. Before Zeus ever ruled the skies, before Olympus glittered with marble and immortal fire, the universe was a place ruled not by justice, but by fear. The Titans were the first great gods, colossal beings born from Gaia, the earth, and Uranus, the endless sky. Among them, Cronus rose to supreme power after overthrowing his own father in a brutal act of cosmic betrayal. He was not crowned by law, nor chosen by fate. He seized the throne with blood-soaked hands, slicing Uranus apart and casting his broken body into the abyss. From that moment on, the universe learned a terrible truth. Power belonged to whoever was willing to take it. Cronus ruled from a throne of terror. The stars moved at his command, the oceans trembled beneath his will, and even the other titans feared his gaze. Yet despite his immense strength, Cronus was haunted by a prophecy, one whispered by Gaia herself. One of your children will destroy you, as you destroyed your father. Fear became his shadow, paranoia his closest companion. And so Cronus did the unthinkable. Each time his wife Rhea gave birth, he swallowed the newborn whole. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. locking them alive inside his endless stomach, entombed in darkness before they could ever see the world. To Cronus, it was not cruelty. It was survival. But fate does not bend forever. When Rhea became pregnant once more, something within her broke. The grief, the rage, the unbearable sorrow of losing yet another child hardened into rebellion. With Gaia's guidance, she hid the infant Zeus away on the island of Crete, while giving Cronus a stone wrapped in cloth to swallow in his place. Cronus, blind with fear and arrogance, devoured it without question. And so Zeus lived, hidden in a sacred cave, nursed by the divine goat Amalthea, guarded by warrior spirits who clashed their shields to hide his cries. Zeus grew not just in strength, but in awareness. He learned of his siblings imprisoned inside Cronus. He learned of the tyranny of the Titans. And slowly, within him, something far greater than lightning began to form. A purpose. When Zeus came of age, he did not rush into war. He was not yet powerful enough to challenge the Titans directly. Instead, he used cunning, disguise, patience. Disguised as a servant, Zeus infiltrated Cronus's court. There, he mixed a powerful potion into his father's drink, one that forced Cronus to vomit up what he had swallowed. One by one, Zeus's siblings were released, reborn into the light after years of imprisonment. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon. Together, they stood before the Titan king, no longer helpless children, but gods ready to fight. The war that followed would shake the foundations of existence. The Titanomachy, the war of the gods, lasted 10 years. 10 years of storms, earthquakes, and celestial bloodshed. Olympus burned. The oceans boiled. Mountains were torn from the earth and hurled like weapons. The Titans were ancient, vast, and brutal. But Zeus had something they did not. Allies. He descended into Tartarus and freed the Cyclopes, one-eyed giants imprisoned by the Titans. In gratitude, they forged for Zeus the greatest weapon ever known, the thunderbolt, a fragment of the raw power of creation itself, shaped into a weapon. To Poseidon, they gave the trident, ruler of the seas. To Hades, the helm of darkness, which rendered him invisible. For the first time, the Titans faced something truly terrifying. A united front. Zeus led the charge, hurling lightning across the battlefield. Each bolt tore through Titan flesh, splitting mountains, igniting the sky. The very laws of nature bent beneath his power. But Zeus was not just a warrior. He was a symbol. To the enslaved forces of the universe, he was rebellion. To the oppressed, he was hope. To the Titans, he was judgment. One by one, the Titans fell. Cronus, at last, stood face to face with the sun he had tried to erase. Lightning clashed against ancient scythes, sky against time, future against past. And when Cronus finally collapsed, the age of Titans ended. The defeated were cast into Tartarus, sealed behind unbreakable gates, guarded by the monstrous Cenomanes. The old rulers of the cosmos were buried alive beneath the world they once controlled, and Zeus ascended the throne of the universe. To many, this was the dawn of justice. The chains had been broken. The devourer of children had fallen. The sky was free. Zeus was hailed as the savior of the gods. And for a time, he was. But even in this moment of triumph, a shadow lingered. Because Zeus had done what all rulers before him had done. He had taken power through war, and the thunder that crowned him king was forged in blood. Part 2. Zeus, the new tyrant behind the throne of thunder. When the Titans fell and Tartarus sealed shut, the universe exhaled for the first time in an age. Mountains stopped burning. The oceans calmed. The sky cleared. To the gods of Olympus and the fragile world of mortals below, it appeared that justice had finally won. Zeus stood at the peak of Mount Olympus, thunder resting in his hand like a divine scepter. He was young, radiant, victorious. Poets would one day sing of him as the great liberator, the savior of the cosmos, the king who ended tyranny. But power does not disappear when a tyrant falls. It merely changes hands. At first, Zeus ruled as he had promised. The heavens were ordered, the seas given to Poseidon, the underworld to Hades, the harvest to Demeter. Even Hera, though burdened by her future, was crowned queen of Olympus. The world was divided, balanced, structured. Yet beneath this apparent harmony, something darker was growing. Zeus had not only defeated the Titans, He had learned from them. The first sign was Tartarus. The Titans had not been tried. They had not been judged. They had not been forgiven. They had been erased, locked away forever in eternal torment, stripped of voice, history, and memory. Their side of the story would never be heard. To Zeus, this was justice. To the universe, it was silence. And silence is the first weapon of every tyrant. Soon after, the gods themselves began to feel the weight of Zeus's rule. He did not debate. He commanded. He did not seek consensus. He declared law. Anyone who questioned him was reminded, subtly or violently, of the thunderbolt that never left his hand. Even Poseidon, master of the seas, learned to lower his eyes in Zeus's presence. Even Hades, ruler of the dead, obeyed without argument. Because Zeus was not simply king. He was unstoppable. But Zeus's greatest fear was not rebellion from Olympus. It was prophecy. Like Cronus before him, Zeus was haunted by whispers of fate. Oracles spoke of a child who would one day overthrow him. The echoes of Gaia's ancient warnings still lingered in the bones of the world. And fear, once again, was born. So Zeus did what all terrified rulers do. He tried to control destiny. When Metis, the goddess of wisdom, became pregnant with Zeus's child, prophecy foretold that her son would surpass his father. Zeus did not hesitate. He swallowed her whole, not out of hunger, but out of terror. The universe shuddered. A god consuming a goddess. A king devouring the future. From inside Zeus's body, Metis lived on, and from her, Athena would one day be born, tearing her way out of Zeus's skull in a burst of divine agony. The parallels to Cronus were undeniable, and yet Zeus never saw it. Zeus also ruled mortals, not as a distant observer, but as a manipulator. He descended to earth in countless disguises: bulls, swans, storms, kings, and shadows. He seduced, deceived, and conquered human women, leaving behind children who would become heroes and tragedies. Every affair created chaos. Every divine romance ended in suffering. For the women, for their families, for the children caught between godhood and humanity. And when mortals suffered, Zeus rarely intervened. Because suffering was not his concern. Control was. Perhaps the clearest proof of Zeus's tyranny was Prometheus, the Titan who had sided with Zeus during the war, the Titan who had helped humanity, the Titan who stole fire, not for power, but for survival. Zeus could not tolerate disobedience. He chained Prometheus to a rock and condemned him to eternal torture. Every day, an eagle would devour his liver. Every night, it would grow back. Forever. All because Prometheus dared to give humans knowledge Zeus wanted to keep. This was not justice. This was fear wearing the mask of law. Slowly, the gods realized the truth. Zeus had not ended tyranny. He had perfected it. Unlike Cronus, who ruled openly through terror, Zeus ruled through divine authority. His cruelty was hidden behind the language of order. His violence was justified as necessity. His paranoia disguised as wisdom. Olympus became a golden cage. Beautiful, powerful, and inescapable. The thunder that once symbolized freedom had become the sound of obedience. And the god who once promised never to become like Cronus had become something far more dangerous. Because Zeus did not believe himself to be a tyrant. He believed himself to be right. Part 3. Zeus, God, monster, or something in between. By the time Olympus reached the height of its glory, the universe no longer remembered the sound of chains breaking. It remembered only thunder. Zeus sat upon a throne carved from cloud and starlight, crowned by lightning, feared by gods and mortals alike. To the world, he was the eternal king, the lawgiver, the skyfather, the guardian of cosmic order. Temples rose in his name. Sacrifices burned on 1,000 altars. His image was carved into mountains and coins and stories. And yet beneath this divine worship lay a deeper, darker truth. Zeus was no longer just a god. He was a system of fear, desire, punishment, and power, one that shaped every corner of existence. To ask whether Zeus was a god or a monster is to misunderstand him. He was something far more dangerous. He was both. The ancient myths often portray Zeus as the protector of justice, the one who punished oath-breakers, defended hospitality, and upheld cosmic law. But the same God who punished injustice also committed it. The same thunder that struck down criminals also silenced the innocent. And so the question arises, was Zeus truly defending order, or merely defending his throne? To answer this, we must look not at his enemies, but at those closest to him. Hera, queen of Olympus, is often remembered as jealous and cruel. But what is jealousy when it is born from endless betrayal? Zeus humiliated her again and again, flaunting his affairs, turning mortal women into divine tragedies. Yet Hera, bound by divine law and cosmic image, could not leave him. She ruled beside him, but never as his equal. This was Zeus's pattern. Everyone was granted power, but no one was allowed independence. Poseidon ruled the seas, but only so long as he bowed to Olympus. Hades ruled the underworld, but was exiled to the shadows. Athena, born of Zeus's mind, was wise, but never free. Even his children were weapons. Heroes like Heracles were not just champions, they were tools of Zeus's will, sent to reshape the world according to divine preference. And what of mortals? To humans, Zeus was a paradox. He was the god who protected guests, yet violated women in their own homes. He was the god of justice, yet ruled through favoritism. He was the sky father, yet never acted like a father. Entire cities were destroyed by Zeus's storms not for crimes, but for displeasing him. In the myth of Troy, Zeus watched as thousands died, not out of necessity, but because fate, a fate he had helped design, demanded it. The suffering of mortals was entertainment. The will of Zeus was law. But the most chilling truth of all was this. Zeus believed he was good. Unlike Kratos, who ruled through naked fear, Zeus ruled through moral certainty. He saw himself as the architect of balance, the guardian of cosmic stability. In his mind, every punishment was justified, every cruelty necessary. This is what made him terrifying. A tyrant who knows he is cruel can be challenged. A tyrant who believes he is righteous cannot. And yet, Zeus was not purely evil. He did prevent chaos. He did stop monsters. He did protect the fragile structure of the universe from collapsing into primal darkness. Without him, reality might have fallen back into the endless brutality of the Titans. Zeus was not wrong when he said the world needed order. He was wrong in believing that only he could provide it. In the deepest, most secret corners of Olympus, there are whispers, old prophecies, forgotten warnings, echoes of what Gaia once said. No king lasts forever, not even one made of thunder. Zeus himself knew this. That was why he feared his children. That was why he crushed rebellion. That was why he controlled fate. Because somewhere deep inside the god of the sky lived a terrified child. The same child who had hidden in a cave, waiting for Kratos to be defeated. The cycle had never ended. It had only changed its face. So what was Zeus? A god? Yes. A monster? Also yes. But more than anything, Zeus was a mirror, a reflection of power itself, how it begins with noble purpose, how it justifies cruelty, and how it ultimately devours those who wield it. He was the savior who became the storm, the liberator who became the law, the rebel who became the throne. And perhaps that is the most tragic truth of all. Zeus did not fail because he was evil. He failed because he was human with the power of a god. Conclusion. Zeus stands at the center of myth not because he was the strongest, but because he was the one who survived long enough to define the story. He ended the age of the Titans and brought order to a shattered cosmos. Yet in doing so, he built a new world upon the same foundation of fear, force, and absolute power. To some, he will always be the hero who saved the universe from ancient darkness. To others, he is merely the darkness wearing a brighter crown. What makes Zeus unforgettable is not his lightning or his throne, but his contradiction. He was capable of justice, yet addicted to control. He defended order, yet constantly violated it when it suited his desires. He punished tyranny, yet never truly escaped becoming a tyrant himself. In Zeus, we see a truth that extends far beyond mythology, that power does not corrupt only the wicked. It transforms even those who begin with noble intentions. And so Zeus remains suspended between god and monster, neither fully one nor the other. His story is not simply about divine wars and thunderbolts, but about the fragile boundary between leadership and domination. In the end, Zeus did not prove that the cycle of tyranny could be broken. He proved how difficult it is to escape it, even for a god.